Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Beat the Big Guys. I'm your host, Sandy Rosenthal. And today, our guest is from the great state of California, and her name is Doreen Downing. Hey, Doreen.
It's wonderful to be speaking to you again. I know you were on my podcast, so I feel like we already have a good relationship going.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to now. I want to hear about you. Because when you interviewed me, I talked about me, which I do not enjoy anywhere near as much as learning more about my guests. So, without much further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce you and we can give the mic to you. Okay.
All right. Yes, let's.
Doreen Downing is a psychologist who hid her stage fright for years. She went through all the traditional programs. She even got awards. But with those programs, she did not find her true inner voice. That is when she did the deeper dive into self discovery and learned how to face fears, heal the inner wounded voice, and find the core strength to speak the truth. Doreen had Doreen has developed a gentle, guided journey to embrace and empower the wounded voice within. Because one cannot beat the big guys, it is certainly very challenging to beat the big guys if one cannot speak publicly. So
Yes.
I just cannot wait to hear about your journey and your discoveries. And I can't wait to hear how you would like to help our listeners today.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Oh, this is wonderful. A platform to tell my story and to reach people who feel like they would like to be in more arenas, speaking up passionately about what they believe, like you did, Sandy. What a what a journey you took. And so my journey, I would say, is getting a PhD in psychology because I love human behavior, human development, and I love potential within. And that potential within is where the voice is, right?
Right.
And we grow up in environments and people tell us what to think, what to say, and how to be. No, 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 we don't say that. No, 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 you can't be that. So that our I guess you might say our layers of how we are in our society, going to school, getting the good grades. My goodness, I went all the way to PhD. So I could fit in and I had a professional degree. But I think that inside this little girl that was still afraid based on some early wounding, lived inside of me. Even though I had a PhD in psychology, I was able to sit in my office, and that's my strength anyway, is having great listening skills. But put me in a room with about even 6 people, I would start to feel that old heartbeat going really fast, my throat constricting, and feeling fear. Why? Only 6 people. So, but it was true. And that's when I went off to face my fears and I joined Toastmasters, did some Dale Carnegie courses, did some acting courses, did as much as I could to put myself on stages, joined the National Speakers Association. But this is my standing up to the big guys moment, I guess you might say, is that yeah, there are all these proven techniques about how to be a good speaker. Actually, what I was looking for was how to find and release my most inner voice, where I felt that was more of my authentic self, my true self. I felt like, yeah, I had developed really good layers. Like you said in my bio, I won awards. But I knew truthfully inside, even though I was on a stage giving a presentation, inside of me was still hiding. I think I just got better at hiding, you might say. So in it kind of culminated when I gave a regional district, a big Toastmasters presentation where it was a contest. And I gave a presentation that was really personal about having diabetes. And I used a poem and it was about how the jasmine wind came to the roses, but the roses were dead, and so the jasmine wind couldn't exchange with the roses their fragrance. And that's how I had felt having discovered I had diabetes, is that a part of me had really dried up inside. And I was sharing that more vulnerable me in on a stage. And I thought I won. I thought it was like it was just so powerful, at least. And so in the third person, they said, called somebody, and I thought, oh, then I got second. Oh, no, I got first. No, I did not. That was a moment that I went, this is not for me to be a performer. I need to go find whatever else I need to find in order to come back on those larger stages. I have to tell you that so many people came up to me and just said, Doreen, you really touched me. And I realized that's what I want to do. I want to touch people, and I don't want to perform and entertain. I want to be myself and my heart and my strength and my belief. So out of that was the turning point for me to start doing more of that, what I said, a deep dive inside. And it's kind of it's a personal moment, but I look back at my early history with my mother being in and out of hospitals for depression. And my grandmother would take care of us, and she would say, shh, don't speak, be quiet. Your mother's going to go back to the hospital. And when I did that deep dive, and that's just one example of some of what I found in my early history, my little girl had to shut up and hold herself back because her mommy is going to go in the hospital if she, speaks up and plays and is excited and exuberant and, little girl stuff, right? So that was me uncovering. And because I'm a psychologist, I know how to do the inner work. So that's what I did. And I have many techniques for handling that inner child and bringing her to life again. So that's how I would say that the wounded voice was found. That's Find Your Voice, my programs, Find Your Voice trainings. I help people find the wounded voice within and uh, bring her to life, or him to life again. And I have lots of examples of people that I've worked with, men and women. Men sometimes have spoken about being bullied, so of course, the person that I work with who's a um, VP of sales of all things gets terrified and sweats every Friday morning when he has to give his report. And we uncovered the wounded little boy inside who spoke up and was shamed and bullied in school. So I think, yes, for the big guys who have great programs, and yet I don't think there's enough of people like me who are saying your voice within is a deeper issue. It's more about being who you are as opposed to coming up with a good speech.
Very well said. The programs you mentioned are I'm actually familiar with one of them, and that is the Dale Carnegie course, which I did take myself. And each having said that, I remember taking that course, and I got a few things out of it. No question. But I also found that if I asked 100 different people what they got out of the program, I could have heard 100 different answers. So there is no one size fits all.
Yes.
And that's one of the things I found out about the Dale Carnegie course. And I am also certain, I'm not trying to disparage the program, but I know they make a lot of money, and with their courses. They sell a lot of books, and it's become a little bit of a machine, or maybe a big machine, I should say. But again, I'm not here to disparage the Dale Carnegie program. I actually went through it and have recommended it to a few members of my family and a few friends of mine. But again, it can't be viewed as the one size fits all. It can't be viewed as the answer. Doreen, there's something that you said that just really struck me, and you spoke about the inner strength, and the inner you, and the reason I really honed in on that is because that is the number one quality that an individual must have to beat the big guys in order to get off that fence and actually go get the big guys. You have to believe in yourself. You have to believe that what you're doing is the right thing to do, and it has to be so you have your conviction needs to be so strong that even if everybody, every family member, and every friend you had lined up at your front door, and all of them were knocking to come tell you you're wrong, it wouldn't matter. Wouldn't
Yeah.
matter. You're going to keep on doing what you're doing. You don't care who has another opinion on that subject. You need to be firm in your belief. And so when you mentioned to have the voice to speak about what you believe, and that also comes from within. Well, that's not surprising.
Yes.
I'm not surprised at all. It's like, well, of course. Can you elaborate on that a little, Doreen?
Well, the way that you just presented it, and for our work and our podcast here about the big guys, you're right that I found great value in both the Dale Carnegie and in Toastmasters. I know how to give a speech, and I do keynote speeches now all the time. I do know how. However, what I this kind of how do I stand up through all of what people are saying? So many people believe that Toastmasters is the only way. So many people believe, feel the fear and do it anyway. But I have been standing up for myself and for those who feel like they need a more gentle inner depth process. And so that if you put Toastmasters out there, Dale Carnegie out there, and every other kind of traditional speaking program, I'm an alternative. And I feel like that's my voice. Hey, folks, just like you said, Sandy, one size does not fit all. And I have a whole unique, different way of helping people go within, uncover the roots to their anxiety about speaking, find their voice. And I have 7 steps. I sometimes call them secrets because it's not something that most people think that being still, which is the first secret, they don't think that learning how to quiet your body, quiet your mind, taking a full, easy breath down grounds you, and your voice comes out much more resonant, especially if it's connected to your passion and what you believe. And like you say, conviction is what then helps you propel yourself. And the propelling isn't like speak up, it's like propelling your truth, right?
I can't help but notice that the best speakers are the ones that speak quietly. Uh,
Oh,
Not the thumpers. I mean, thumpers mean people thumping on the podium. The
yeah.
people who speak quietly, in my mind, command the biggest, the most attention. I've seen rooms fall to silence because someone with that quality you just described just started speaking, and that the whole room will just stop. It's interesting. I don't think I have that quality. I wish I did, but that certainly resonates with what you just said. Certainly been
Well,
my experience.
what you have is the second step is presence, being fully present. And I think what you said about conviction is lining up with what you truly believe in the moment, and entering into any sort of room, knowing yourself, being present fully with yourself and with whoever's listening, not being swayed by that, and standing in your beliefs. So I would say for sure you're a model of what I teach.
I guess you would call that the courage of your convictions.
Yes,
That
yes.
as an old phrase that's been around a long time that I don't haven't seen it much lately. Oh, speaking of phrases, and thank you by the way for that very nice compliment. I want to ask you a question about imposter syndrome, which is becoming more and more common commonly seen these days. Talk about phrases. Imposter syndrome. I saw the words for the first time maybe 3 months ago, and of course now I'm hearing it, seeing it everywhere. It's like discovering a new word. I've discovered a new phrase. Does imposter syndrome, um, does is that a term that is something that you would might discuss, or or work with when you're working with your patients, with
Absolutely.
clients? Oh,
Yes, in fact,
it is.
here's an example of one person that, came to me who works at, I don't know if it's revealing anything, but a big, let's just say something like Google. And he's afraid to go into these rooms, with the quote, "big guys," and he felt like an imposter. He's coming in and he doesn't, he really doesn't feel like who he is and what he has to offer is valued. And we uncovered, just like I talked about earlier, uncovering my grandmother's, shushing me, he uncovered the connection between being 12 years old and his father dying and his uncles coming to him and saying, "You're now the man of the family.
Wow.
Stop crying."
Wow.
So you can see that the emotion that was inside of him had to be swallowed and buried deep inside. So he's feeling at 12-year-old, are you a man of the family?
Wow.
No.
For our listeners out there that aren't familiar with the term imposter syndrome, could you talk about that a little more?
Well, mainly it's pretty much sounds like what it is, that you're pretending you are something when you really aren't, inside. And I would say that would be true for me having a PhD in psychology, having a successful practice, but inside I had a fear that I had to hide of my speaking anxiety, my stage fright. So in a way, you might say that I was an imposter for a while there. "Hello, I'm your doctor." But inside, "Ah, don't bring in the whole family, I'm gonna get scared."
So while the term may be fairly new, becoming more recently widely used, it's been around for a long time.
Yes.
This
Yeah, I
feeling
think I
that you
think like
described.
anything, it's, when something becomes popular, it starts to gain, so I think it's good that it's gaining because I think of it more as a facade that I was putting up as opposed to imposter. I felt like definitely I had layers of facade. But before we get off, I don't know about our timing, but I wanted to go back to something you said
Sure,
about
sure, we're good. We're good.
the quiet presence that's, on sometimes that you feel in people being much more powerful than the thumping and the kind of more performance type. I mean, those are good. I mean, they're acting, right? They aren't really there to be real. They're there to put on a show or to give a speech that has purpose and meaning and may have persuasion in it. So there are all sorts of techniques. But bottom line, in the depth that you're talking about, it's about being magnetic as opposed to dynamic. So and we all have different personalities. So dynamic versus magnetic, I think, is what I wanted to say. To That was in response to what you said about, quiet people draw people to them, as opposed to, sometimes they say, knock the socks off of people. You could say, suck the socks off people, bring them to you.
Um, well, thank you, for explaining that. The So we're doing pretty good on time. But I'd love to find out if there's anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners before we sign off.
Well, I would say that the whole point and why I'm even here today is to say that there are alternatives to finding your voice when it comes to having speaking anxiety. And you don't have to go into a program. I gently guide people through a process that helps them find their voice, their inner strength, and then be able to move themselves out into those arenas where they wanna make change, wanna make a difference.
Well, that's fantastic. And anybody, do you really feel, Doreen, that anyone can learn how to be a public speaker?
Absolutely, and it
Okay.
and I would like to also put a new thought, a mindset, that public speaking is even to one person. Going into the boss's office, or even just talking to a coworker, or speaking up at a, just a small group meeting. There's all sorts of I say life is your stage, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And like selling is public speaking, like selling a
Yes,
product is public speaking. And then I point to myself, I'm still in shock that I have my own podcast because I'm born with severe and profound sensorineural neural hearing loss. And I had a heavy speech problem because of that hearing loss. And I had a thick Boston accent. And here I am with my own podcast. And so if I can do it, if I can speak in public, anyone can.
yes, yeah, great example. So, yes, that mainly is that there are other alternatives for people who would say, "I can't speak and I can't go to those programs." Well, hello, there are other alternatives, and, my Find Your Voice trainings are, either individual, I do private work with people, or group work.
Thank you so much. And if anyone would like to find out more about how to get in touch with you, what do you recommend? We do have some links in the show notes, but
Great.
in case anybody's not reading, you could want to just say it right now for the benefit of our listeners who are listening.
Yes, it's Doreen7secrets.com, and my name is spelled Doreen, Doreen 7, number 7, secrets.com, and that's the way to get all 7. I talked about 2 of them today, which is be still, be present, and then you can get the rest, and, uh, contact me. There's all sorts of ways. I'm all over, present on social media.
Great. Well, you can't give away all the secrets today. So you're going to have to get the rest yourself. Thank you so much, Doreen, for being with us today. And thank you to the listeners. A video version of this podcast episode is available on my YouTube channel, Beat the Big Guys. And for and for everybody here, whether podcast or video, be sure to like, subscribe, and rate this podcast on all of your favorite platforms. And remember, no matter who you are, you too can beat the big guys.